What's funny is when you take an interest in people and understand where they're at, they're going to sell themselves on why what you do is going to help them. Pressure is something you're either going to force into your life and build yourself, or life's going to do to you at some point, right? So there's no way to avoid it. And people that are scared to burn out are actually using it as kind of a limiting belief to avoid actually doing the work they feel they should for a temporary period of time that would escalate their results dramatically.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Cash Flow Conversations, where we interview entrepreneurs on their journey from W-2 to 1099. I'm Matt Love, your host, and with me I have a sales coach who has made over 100,000 cold calls. That's good practice. So
Yeah.
welcome, Joe. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Excited to be here. Appreciate you having me.
So Joe Wanner, you have a heck of a resume in sales, but it didn't always start in sales. So we always interview people, nobody gets out of high school and someone on their shoulders saying, hey, go be an entrepreneur, go into sales, take risk on a guaranteed income versus a potential income.
Yeah.
So walk me through your journey from, you went to school. Where'd you go to college?
Yeah. I went to a Marquette up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yep.
You're not up there anymore.
Very, very cool. It's so funny because my podcast is actually called Built for the Cold, because I spent my entire life in Portland, Oregon, and then in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So everything was just like cold rain to cold snow and freezing.
And now you're in Florida, with no income tax, which is great.
You're correct. No income tax, the early snowbird life, even though it's not really a snowbird because I'm gone permanently. But that's kind of what's led me to Florida. Obviously met my wife and she's out here with her daughter and stuff. So that brought me to Tampa, actually. I just realized I'm wearing that hat today.
Beautiful. And so you went to school for fitness, and how long did you work in that world?
Yeah. So I actually, it's funny you're talking about risk adverse. Is like I actually, my family growing up, they're all teachers, and respect the heck out of them, love them. But it's a very like kind of risk adverse field where it's like you get into teaching and then there's like pretty much that's it. And you kind of get, work your way up and kind of teaching departments and stuff. But it's a lot more stable than we would call the business world today. So I ended up going to Marquette for strength and conditioning, sports performance, physical therapy, athletic training, all that. I was working with the basketball team there. So some names people know out of Marquette, like Jimmy Butler, Jay Crowder. Those are some. I didn't know them like personally, but yes, I was in the same facility training them. So I worked in that field, like really not even like 1 year after college, before I was just like, you know what, this is just not going to make the money I need to pay off everything. But private school education, worked my way to actually pay pretty much all of it myself. We just didn't grow up with a lot of money. I come from an immigrant family. So I always had like a desire to make a lot of money. I think at once it was more of a chip on my shoulder than anything to prove people wrong that I wasn't like the poor kid growing up, just being very real with that.
Yeah.
But then it turned into like starting to understand what money can really do. And also what I got more excited about wasn't the money I was making in sales when I started getting into it, but it was like who I was becoming because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, man. So it's funny when these successful entrepreneurs, when you talk to them, most of the time it's this desire, this fire inside not to fail. We don't start like I want to be a billionaire or a millionaire. I just am not going to let myself fail. And if I succeed or if I fail, that's on my shoulders.
Yep. And I think more so it's just I've always been driven by a nightmare. Then because all people are like, oh yeah, you're driven by your dream, everything else. Like, no, I know what it's like to basically, I was in college at one time, just financial story here. It's not like a rags to riches per se. Like I was still blessed to have like family and like a place to go back home sometimes. But in college, I was really struggling. Like there was one point for 6 months, I couldn't afford groceries. My girlfriend at the time actually helped me with that. And then I also was 4 months behind on rent, couldn't pay, and they were about to kick me out of the house. This is like junior year of college. At a private university where a lot of kids have money.
Yeah.
Right. Where a lot of parents like give like whatever they need. And I'm sitting there like, man, I can't even afford to fly a plane ticket home. Like I remember what that was like. And I was so driven to avoid that I think that drives me still to this day of like just never getting back to that place, almost in a psychotic way.
Yeah. When I was in college, I remember going to the grocery store and my card was declined. And I'm like, oh, let me go to my car. And my other card, it's in my car. Let me run out. And I just left, dude. I just never even went back in.
Yeah. I feel it.
Terribly embarrassing. Never wanted to do that again. So you lasted a year as a W-2, which I lasted about a year and a half before I quit architecture.
Yeah.
So walk me through that thought process. You kind of got sick of punching the time clock and
So here's the thing, I will clarify. So I was only actually a W-2 in sales only up until about like this last year, like full 1099 myself. So I was in sales, like, well, everything was like W-2. Now it was still like, there were some positions where W-2 100% commission. So it was like, it was almost like still like you had to perform, but there was like a guaranteed kind of draw, very small base salary, nothing crazy. But you had like, you got what you, especially in insurance. So I was in commercial insurance. That's probably where it like clipped. A lot of people don't know this about my story, but I probably spent about 8, 9 years in network marketing on the side of my sales jobs, right? Before I ever kind of had a version of success, right? Where it's like, hey, multi 6 figure income, whatever that looks like, and whatever people want to call that, right? That first happened in commercial insurance. And then ever since then, I've been fortunate enough to not fall back from that and continue it to grow. But we're kind of coming up on like my first full year in that, where I'm doing more in the 1099 myself than what I ever did W-2, which I'm very grateful for, but it took time to build that. I've been doing this 15 years.
so when you left college, you went into sales, but they just paid you with a base salary, but you still ate what you killed, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. The base salaries are never like, they're like survival income. They're
Yeah.
never that
Yeah.
grandiose of anything.
So you like the idea of not having a ceiling on the potential earnings.
100%.
Yeah. Well, you've done over 100,000 cold calls, and now you're working with some of the best salespeople in the country, in my opinion, with Jeremy Miner and his group. Talk to me about that for a little bit.
Man, well, the cold calls is what well, I was like doing some cold call coaching and like network marketing, cold prospect, and all that type of stuff for a while. And when I first heard of Jeremy, it was like there were some things I already felt like I did that Jeremy talked about, but it was just I don't want to say he was like the way he was like suave or savant or whatever that might look like, but I was like, man, that's really smooth. Like, how does he just like know how to break that down? And that's what I was looking for so long. I'd studied Challenger Sale, Grant Cardone, some of Jordan Belfort's stuff. I looked at a lot of different sales training, applied quite a bit of it, uh, but nothing like Jeremy's. And so I invested into his highest ticket program, got in the inner circle, and within a couple months, the CEO at the time was like, "Hey, we see your experience. Hey, like you seem very, very good at cold calling. Like, what's your experience?" And I'm like, "Well, I think at that point I had sold probably in about 15 different industries because I had some network marketing coaches that told me, hey, just like build your business, just jump around sales jobs, whatever pays you the most." So that's what really led me to like not stay in any position forever. Like I will like sell, get on the leaderboard, and then like I'm bored, go to the next thing. It wasn't great advice.
No,
Like, would
it's
I look
not.
back again, I would never have done that, but that's what led to that, and so it gave me systems behind cold calling. I had to learn industries quick. It's like, hey, one industry I'm selling in software, next I'm in insurance, next I'm in trucking, next I'm in healthcare, next I'm in it was crazy.
But I love it because, sales used to have this terrible rap, 20, 30 years ago. But have you ever heard of Zig Ziglar?
Yeah,
So Zig has that whole tirade that's like, yeah, like 10 minutes long. He goes on to about how the tractor guy bought a tire, and then he bought the rubber, and all of the sales that happened just for one purchase, and all of the people that it employs. And it's such a undervalued skill that can be learned. And that's what Jeremy really taught me too, is that, so talk to me about like tactically or mentally, what is sales all about?
yeah, that's a really good question. I break it down to 3 components. So I say it's like it's a combination of your systems that you have personally, like your effectiveness, like how effortless something is to you, right? And that's only built because you've put in the reps to actually earn the execution and the confidence to be able to do things more systematically. It's also a combination of technical expertise. How well do you know your product and the positioning and how well it actually helps your customer, right? People that say, hey, you don't need to know the product, you just need to know how to sell. I don't believe that. I think you really do need to be kind of I've seen people who are very, very technically sound, don't sound great tactic wise, don't really have systems, but they're so technically sound they can help someone with anything. And then the third is tactics. Tactics is like, hey, how you sound, your script, your tonality, different things. I even was doing research the other day. Like people tend to focus, I feel like too much sometimes on their script. It's like 10 to 15% of what you need. Most of it's like how you communicate, the certainty in your communication, you understanding the emotional resilience when to pause when pressure hits in a sales environment. And that's, I mean, not to put a plug into it right now. That's why we built Sales Gym, was just because people don't have an environment outside of their sales calls to really practice under pressure.
Yeah, I
So,
totally agree with you. The
yeah.
role playing is important. And you mentioned people are in love with the script. I used to work with a guy who would bring me in on meetings, and he would, as soon as a question came up that wasn't in his script, it was like the whole meeting just got derailed.
Hold it. Absolutely fold it.
And that shows lack of confidence from the buyer's perspective. The buyer's going, "What? Why can't I ask a question and feel like I can talk to you like a normal person?"
Yep. Yep.
So that's some of the stuff that you guys teach is like, how do you make this conversational? And less, I don't want to say formal, but like what language would you use? Like how to
Uh,
make it more conversational?
it's a great question. I think it's a combination of conversational. I don't want to say like two human conversation, but it's almost like a mentoring relationship. Right? Where my goal at the end of the day is not to like guide them just to my product. Hey, if I'm not the right fit based off what they're saying, I'm gonna refer that to someone else. And I do. Like it's that detachment to feel, hey, let me get an understanding. If I'm a third party consultant coming in and just like helping you analyze your situation and giving my professional expertise on it, if I'm not the person who can help you, like I'm referring to someone else. I think that just comes from like the Go Giver Sell More, like that book. But that's some people get so attached to their product and like, oh, I got to solve this person's problem with what I do. You know, what's funny is when you take an interest in people and understand where they're at, they're going to sell themselves on why what you do is going to help them.
That is a wonderful, what you guys call framework that you teach. How to have the consumer talk to you about why they want it. And asking the question that the majority of salespeople don't want to ask is, why wouldn't this work for you? If this could do something better, what would that look like?
Yeah, just the 20% of people, the 20% of like tougher questions that feel uncomfortable, that feel like, oh, I don't know if I should go there. But that's where most people are missing it. It's because our unwillingness to explore what that might be. That also took on cold calling, me taking conversations too far where they'd hang up. But you never understand your capacity of where you can go until you actually take it there. And like the worst thing they're gonna do is hang up like that. Boo hoo. Like there's people that literally like, shovel dirt for a living for 40 hours a week and people hang up on me. I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, better than moving concrete blocks.
So that's kind of how my mindset is around that.
So when you do a cold call, you don't really do cold calls anymore though, do you?
I do sometimes. It's hard to build. The reason I say sometimes is I do it all the time. Role plays. I teach my team it. I'll make cold calls if I need to. I'm just at a point right now where I'm getting so many inbound from referrals and everything else. I haven't personally, like in the last probably couple months,
Yeah.
needed to, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I love it, man. So you realized you didn't want a ceiling of income and you wanted more freedom. And you did what I teach in this book, my book, The Entrepreneur's Asset. Sales is the number one way to increase your income. And then you create a business around that. And that's exactly what you're doing. Now you're creating a sales coaching business with Jeremy. And you guys you guys are probably, I think, the biggest sales coaching program
yeah,
in the world, isn't it?
yeah. Revenue wise, correct. Yeah, and that's ranked by like third party, like all that stuff. So I know sometimes it's hard. And what's so interesting in the sales coaching industry is like all these people throw out numbers and like what's actually verified, but those are all third party verifications. Yeah.
Yeah. But I know people like talking gross numbers instead of net
Yeah.
numbers all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
The
Yep.
financial
Yep.
advisors do the same thing. They talk gross numbers because it's much more attractive. I
Yeah,
always joke
exactly.
the gross number, the difference between gross and net because it's almost gross to look at the total revenue and realize what my little net can actually keep,
Correct.
So, all right, let's talk about salespeople. What do you
Yeah.
think separates the pros and the amateurs? Now, you mentioned your framework of those 3 points, but what do
Yep.
you think separates the pros versus the amateurs?
I think just being willing to invent yourself in a way that no one else has done. Right. I was actually watching a video a friend sent to me the other day of a guy that was spent 15 years playing pro basketball. And the difference between people who make it pro and then like the people that only survive through college or high school is they're doing what everyone else is teaching them to do and not thinking of how can I take that system but actually make it even better. Right. I have found the people that are able to think way outside the box and think where the puck is going, not just what everyone's saying right now. And that's why I got so attracted to Jeremy's teaching because even right now, he's building things right now that are like 3 years ahead of where like things are. Like the moment that everyone catches on, because I think every single sales trainer I've seen right now is copying some version of NEPQ,
Version of what?
version of NEPQ, the principle of what Jeremy's teaching. Right.
Dude, I saw an
That's what I've
ad where
seen.
a guy, he started out the ad saying, I would hate to be Jeremy because he's teaching these coaches how to
Yeah.
sell or how to train these salespeople. And then they're going and starting their own thing
Correct.
without him.
Yeah. Yeah, correct. And so that's where when Jeremy and I had that conversation, I don't know. Someone asked me this the other day on a different podcast. They're like, "Hey, well, what separates you?" And I was like, "Well, I just kind of appreciate the person that went before and built everything. So like, who am I to go like start something else without giving credit to the person that gave me the platform?"
I
Right. So
think
that's
that
why
builds
Jeremy
more.
and I partnered together.
And
Was
think
that?
about when you started in sales and jumping from sales job to sales job to find the next greatest thing, you learn pretty quickly that that's not the long game.
It's not the long game because also too the people I've noticed do that, and I have a lot of respect for all of them. I even stay in touch with quite a few of them because they used to be former coworkers and colleagues and stuff, and they do great work. It's not they don't do great work. It's that so like I also understand the power of leverage, and no one has a bigger brand right now in sales training than Jeremy. No one does. Everyone knows who Jeremy is.
They
No one
do.
knows who Joe Wanner is yet, and quite frankly, I don't care if people know who I am or not. Like, hey, just jump on some of the calls. You'll see my stuff and trainings, but
Jeremy followed me on the internet for like 3 years before I actually purchased. Every time I would log into something, I'd see his ads and his face. I'm like, what is this
yeah,
guy?
yeah, that sounds about right.
And a lot of times the ads that you'll see with Jeremy, people are so eager to get into how do you handle objections? Okay. Cause that's a fun conversation piece. But one of the things that you guys are really big on teaching is framework
Yes.
and how to avoid the objection. And what you guys, the objection is like the clickbaity stuff online, but what you guys really focus on is how do you even avoid that type of, rejection or objection in the beginning? Talk to me about that.
Man, I love this question because I think more. I'll just give an example here, and this isn't again. This I hope you're my heart. It's not bragging. It's just learning the principles Jeremy taught me. But Jeremy was so good that he didn't really get a ton of objections because he knew exactly what people were looking for and like where the uncertainty was, where their awareness was of things, and like because of the stuff he's teaching me, I'm to like the last 6 sales I had, and they didn't have any objections. Right? Because I knew where to align things where it's like, hey, I can hear where they're. But the biggest thing that I see is if we can actually help people have a conversation around reality and not pontification. Hey, this is what I think is going on. This is what I feel like is happening. This is what I've noticed. But is that actually the real situation? Like, let's actually look at the facts. And until we look at the facts, we're having hypothetical conversations. I was even sharing this on a training today. Hypothetical conversations to hypothetical goals and dreams to a hypothetical consequence that they'll never take responsibility for ever because it's all hypothetical. It's not based off actual data.
Yeah. Well, that's not easy to get someone to be honest, especially as a cold caller because they don't know you
It's
from
not.
Adam.
It's not, especially when 97% of this is HubSpot's data. 97% of prospects and customers believe salespeople are going to lie, manipulate, or waste their time. So it's
You're
very
right.
hard. And we're past the point where we can like back in the consultative era days of selling, where it's like we could ask like, "Hey, John, what keeps you up at night?" I ask that all the time. They used to answer that question. They do not now, right? And they feel like every answer they give to a direct question is going to be manipulated later to try and logically trap them into buying something. That's what everyone feels. No one wants to say it, but people are very
How
aware
do
of
you
it.
overcome that?
It's having them what I've realized, and this is what I teach a couple times here. I'm just thinking of how to explain this. When you can actually use the skepticism they already have as not to weaponize it per se, but to actually use it in a way that allows them to see what they're actually standing on. What I mean by that is this: they're already doubting, they're already skeptical. So if I can ask questions in a way they start to become more skeptical of their own way of doing things or the way that maybe a current vendor is doing things, do I even have to really even value stack or sell myself if I become the least risky option?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
People don't make decisions now based off 100% guarantee. You can't guarantee anything. Does that automatically mean 70% is bad? Right? It's kind of the win of like, hey, which is the least risky? So if I can help them, and this is the point of situation questions and starting to understand doubt, when they get to a point where they're like, oh, I didn't think of it this way. But I'm just asking questions. I'm not trying to position anything. I'm not trying to force an agenda and ask them all these questions and dig for pain. People are so aware of that now, right? It's like,
Well,
how do
that
you
goes
actually
back to the idea of following a script versus just being real.
correct?
And I think salespeople shy away from the difficult questions because it could bring up an objection or a thought or a skeptic
Yep.
perspective.
Yep. And I just trust myself. Like because some people are like, man, that seems pretty aggressive. Like Jeremy taught me this very early on. NEPQ is one of the most aggressive ways to sell because it's getting directly to the root of what no one wants to talk about, which is their actual situation. It's like, does a good friend tell you what you want to hear or what you need to hear? Well, hopefully, if they're a good friend, what you need to hear. So whether people like me or not
You
because
want
of
to
it,
talk
my goal
politics?
is not to be liked. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry. Anyway,
We can dive into politics in that conversation. No, we're not doing that.
I know we definitely could.
Yeah. Sometimes the honesty is not what people want to hear, but it's what they need to hear. And as a role as a salesperson, one thing you guys say too, that I know you'll connect here, but is sales something you do to people or is it something that you do for people?
Man,
I
That's
mean,
very
that hit me. I wrote that down like one of the first times I sat down, and I was like, dude, that's so true. And if I really believe that I could help, it doesn't mean that I need the commission. It means I need to help them, and it might not include me getting a commission. What do you
and
think about
major.
like when you first heard? Is it something you do 2 people or 4 people? What did you think?
Well, I felt like everything I'd done up till then was two people, right? Because that's what I was. That's what you're taught is like, hey, do this tactic, hey, hardcore. But I never felt great doing it. But I was like, that's the only thing I knew. And then when I found out there was a way to not do that and actually like exit gracefully, or like some people, the reason, and this isn't to like excuse the people because I hear it sometimes as an excuse. Oh, well, it's just not going to work because of this, and this. Sometimes that could be true, but also it's a limiting belief we have as salespeople. I'm going to do everything I can to help them understand where they're going and the trajectory. But sometimes people just, their awareness hasn't caught up yet, right? To the certainty they realize they don't have. They may have misplaced certainty somewhere. And sometimes what I've realized is people have to like literally hit the actual consequence until they actually wake up. And that's the hardest part for people to realize is like sometimes people just have to wait for it to get that bad before they change. And I can't always control that. I'm going to do the best I can to help them become aware, to help them become more certain in themselves. But at the end of the day, we can't force people to do anything.
Dude, I joke. I've talked with people in their 20s that are, they have 7 figures in the bank. And that's not a good client for me because they think the whole world is rainbows and unicorns. They haven't hit the wall. They haven't seen the failure because it will happen. And the people that go through that are the ones that have a completely different perspective moving forward.
But yeah, I'm so thankful I failed in my from 19 to like 27, 28, and had no success. Had it because it was so funny in network marketing. They talk about like, when I was especially, this was like the early 2010. Oh, yeah, you retired 2 to 5 years. Everyone heard about the 2 to 5 year plan, fire, all this stuff. Whether that's, still doesn't exist or not, it's like some people still do it. I see it. Right. But what it led me to have was like an overinflated ego of where I was going in my 20s. And when I didn't retire by 23, I was like, what the heck? This is a scam, everything else. But I'm so grateful that I went through that early on in my 20s. So now when I have like what I have, I don't squander it. And I have such a different reality and scope. And like, I also know too, I could lose everything tomorrow, but I'd be okay with that because I built something a lot of people don't, which is skill and resilience.
Yeah.
Like I've lost everything like 2 or 3 times. Like we're talking multi six-figure salaries, like gone out the window, one day, one call, you're done. Everything you built, gone. Rebuilt it 12 months. Put
I've
me in
gone
any
through the
city
same thing.
anywhere, 6 months. Like I'll rebuild something.
I've gone through the same thing.
Yeah.
Years after I started in the financial world, one of the big companies I represented demutualized, which basically means their corporate structure completely changed. And so everybody who had life insurance policies, their policies, a lot of them changed. Some of them are still pretty good, but they took away everything from me with a letter. I was the president of the entire country for the agents. Okay. I was like the,
Yep.
you
Oh,
know,
I see it.
and I got a letter. They didn't even call me. They just opened up the mail like, well, I just lost 6 figures annually.
It's
Terrible, dude.
it's crazy how much like but what that does is like it humbles you to like get to a point, not in always a bad way. It changes your perspective. So like, man, like literally nothing is guaranteed. All we can do is put ourselves in that position.
But you know what's cool though, dude? Sales is something that you can take like you to multiple industries. Like if you lost your job, are you really worried you're not going to be able to make it back? Think about that. Like your parents are teachers. I have family members that teach. They would look at an entrepreneur as being too risky because you don't know where your next paycheck's coming from. I look at it as you're hoping that your employer keeps you on long enough for you to retire. Can you imagine losing your job at 60 or 61?
I don't want to share like too personal of a story, but so my wife's family is actually having that experience right now. Or even like I have a family friend who is, and it's kind of like you have these skills, but your skills have to keep up with the market. And like, it's so crazy. I didn't realize it at 19 what I was building, but it's like when you become so valuable to a market, it's not that like I could just pick up wherever. It's that there's so much that I could do that there's only too many options. That can be the risk sometimes when you start to develop certain skills, right? You have so many options, you get distracted.
Yeah,
Very
shiny
guilty of
object
that.
syndrome.
But it's at least you've built yourself to a point where you have those options because a lot of people that kind of they built one skill on one specific thing and not saying that everyone needs to do sales. I would argue, I mean, a lot of people that skill is very, very important. But think of it in a job, you have to sell yourself
Every day.
every single day. So if all the skills that are out there The more important skill, like think of high business negotiations. Think of every single environment as some type of sale, every environment.
You know, sales is not manipulating people to do something.
I've heard this one. All right. I have my own thought on that point. So think of it like this. When we don't want to go to the gym but still go, isn't that a form of manipulating our brain to actually like do something? So all I see manipulation as, everyone does it, but it's an amplification of character, right? Bad character with manipulation, bad things. Manipulation, good character, even better things. Because you have to manipulate your brain to be able to do something you don't want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's the way that I meant it is like, because, and that's why people hated sales. They'd get into something that they didn't really want. So they were manipulated for,
Correct.
with a negative outcome without having what they really needed in mind. Do you think someone who can't handle pressure is going to be able to build long-term wealth?
Pressure is something you're either going to force into your life and build yourself, or life's going to do to you at some point. I'd rather the one that I'm ready for and choosing to do.
That's why I go to the gym. That's going to be a short clip right there. That was good.
Yeah.
Why do you think salespeople or even entrepreneurs burn out?
You know what's so funny? I actually just hired a burnout coach yesterday. This is so ironic that you asked me this now. She walked me through it. She's doing an amazing job with what she's doing, helping her kind of build that out. But yeah, I hired her to kind of help me with some things, even just brief for an hour and a half. And it was just so funny. Like I've hit the wall of burnout so many times, but I think in doing that, the respect for the work it takes to be an entrepreneur, the respect it takes to just understand how when you're pouring your heart and soul into something, like everything's integrated. Like Carlton Dennis, I work with some of his CPAs, um, and I was watching a clip he had the other day on just like when there's no such thing as like balance per se. I've equated it to there's rhythm, right? And it's understanding when you're starting to get to those levels of burnout, right? As my coach was telling me, hey, stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I literally sat there, I was like, wow, I've been at stage 5 for like way too long on certain things. But you never understand your capacity until your capacity is tested, right? So there's no way to avoid it. And people that are scared to burn out are actually using it as kind of a limiting belief to avoid actually doing the work they feel they should for a temporary period of time that would escalate their results dramatically.
I love what you just said. I marked that too, so I can come back to that.
So it's understanding your rhythms. It's understanding your personal rhythms. Like as an example, like I've the last 3 weeks kind of launching a couple different businesses, training offers, working with Jeremy. They've been long days. Like we're talking 14, 16 hour days. No, not like me kind of being on my phone for like 3 hours of that day, like legitimately back to back to back to back. But I get to a point where I'm like, I feel exhausted. My workouts start to suffer a little bit. So I need to take a couple days, maybe work a couple half days because I have the flexibility to do that, and maybe just take one weekend off. And then sometimes, like Layla Hermosi talks about this all the time, sometimes you just need rest. So learning when to rest has allowed me to recover quicker and to trust. I used to feel like I had to do everything, and now I just trust that things will be taken care of, right? When I get back. And what's crazy is I'm more refreshed, and I'm avoiding the stage 5 of burnout. And now when I understand when the stage, this is what I learned yesterday. Well, I get to like stage 3 or 4 and know exactly what those triggers are to like, revert back.
I wonder how long it took Layla to convince Alex that sometimes you just need rest.
I'm sure that's still a conversation. I've never met them in person. I hope one day I do. But
I'm sure. So speaking of Alex, Alex is known for being fairly, excuse me, physically fit. How do you see athletics and taking care of yourself impacting your ability to earn?
well, it's all about balance. No, I'm kidding. It's the antithesis of what I just said.
Yeah.
I think it's learning how to train for the season you're in. Right. So for example, like this is how I've been training consistently in the gym for about 23 years straight, never missed a month. Right. And I've done it through all kinds of things. I've been through crazy family stuff. I was 19. There was a period of literally a month where, and this is in my podcast, but just to kind of give everyone an idea here, like I literally faced breakup with a girlfriend, got fired, best friend died at 24. He was one of my mentors in network marketing. Grandpa got diagnosed with cancer. I'm 19 at this point. There were like so many things that happened then, but I was still in the gym, right? And it like stabilized me. And what I've recognized when I started to push and I started to do a lot of like powerlifting, heavy lifting, like heavy lifting's good. But when you get to a point where I'm at, right, I don't have to, because of the built up foundation, I don't have to lift as heavy and as often as I think based off the science because there's already a foundation. And so I've actually tapered back quite a bit, right? But I check my measurements, I check my weight, everything else, and everything's like stable, right? And it's just more on like autopilot. And I'm still in the gym. I enjoy my workouts, but I use it more from a standpoint of like, hey, this is just my stability here when everything else feels chaotic. So it's really, really important, whether it's working out or something, to find to like stabilize yourself when a lot of other areas in your life are kind of crazy. Like I see life as like a V8 engine, right? Not all pistons are firing 100% all the time, otherwise it would explode, right? But there's some pistons that are just stable, while the others are a little more up and down. And if you can get your fitness to that level, like you can operate at a much higher level and probably have more productive, like in the flow hours than most people. Like I'm in the flow probably about 5 to 6 hours a day, right? Where I feel like I'm really in the flow, right? It used to be 2 to 3. And working out allowed me to build my capacity to have more flow hours where my energy is an 8 or 9 or 10.
That's wonderful, man. I look at, the financial world the same way. You know, not everything has to be firing and all at the same time. And there's gonna be good times and bad times, but that finding the rhythm and creating systems, because when it comes to entrepreneurs, income up and down, sales, income up and down, how do we capture the good times and not lose it when the times aren't as good? So, like, having a system for your daily routine and for your money will allow you to perform better as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and it's crazy how that foundation, like going back to the fitness example for a second, personally, like right after my wife's and my honeymoon, came back, got pretty sick with COVID pneumonia. Like still to this day, it's like 6 weeks later, and I still have some of the cough. It's wild what's going on right now, but like I haven't lost any strength and I haven't lost any size, even though I wasn't eating as much, working long hours, everything else, because it takes a lot of science to actually break down stuff when there's that much of a foundation. So whether that's financially or in your sales skills or whatever, it takes a lot more than you think to absolutely put a crack in the foundation. It's like a very sturdy house.
Bro, totally agree. Actually, in my book, I talk about the foundation account, like
I
how
love it.
it, in the phases of life,
I'm
how do you
ordering that book, by the way.
in the phases of life, once we understand income, now what do we do? Well, I want to capture it before I try to multiply it, and I want to protect it before I try to multiply it. And then I have permission to multiply it. In phase five, I want to talk about before we get off of this too is faith, because I talk about internal rate of return, like how does money grow? External rate of return, are there taxes involved? Are there fees? What's the overhead? And then eternal rate of return. All right, now your 8 million is worth 8.4 million. So what? What's the point of all that? But before we go there, you mentioned the foundation. So yeah, foundation with wealth, completely important. You had COVID. Just a side note, dude. One of my friends had COVID, and for like 3 or 4 months, he was just dragging. He just couldn't get it back. And something about the virus is connected to a part of a protein in his body, and he started using nicotine.
Interesting.
And the nicotine, within 2 weeks, he just got a little patch, and he goes, "It's like a 3 milligram or something really small," but he was better in like 3 weeks.
That's so wild. My aunt was telling me she's into all the kind of like the cool side medicine. I know it's what's funny too is my wife is actually studying to be an herbalist right now. So
Sweet.
like how like plants and everything else, like that's the medicine. And I'm not gonna go down the whole pharmaceutical rant right now, but that's my personal take
We
on it
do have
right
another podcast on politics and pharmaceuticals.
now. Funny.
Yeah, dude. But good for her though. I love it. My third daughter was born with a very rare genetic deletion. It's not
I'm sorry
hereditary.
to hear that.
Yeah, she's good though. So she
Good.
has a lung disease, and they want to put her on all this medicine, and we're just pushing back. Like we don't want to give a 2, 3 year old drugs. And so, what are the natural remedies that we can look for? And there's a lot coming out, dude. I know like peptides and
Oh yeah. Well, there's
all sorts
so
of
much coming out right now.
so much,
I'm even
dude. And
learning
with
from,
the mm,
man, I'm even thinking like, it's a sound for some people, maybe listening to this, it's gonna sound hookoo buku, but like what my wife is studying right now, she even mentions like, hey, did you know dandelions have like cancer preventing qualities? And yet here we are taking Roundup to all the dandelions in the weeds.
well, dandelions don't make anybody any money.
Exactly. That's why.
Follow the money, dude. It's so
Follow
funny.
the money.
I
Follow the
love
money.
the transparency that we're seeing. I love that a former Democrat, a family with history of Democrats now is helping Republicans. Feel like people can come together in the name of health. I think there's rationality there. I think there's future progress with that, but some people just don't want that to happen.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a whole hive mind out there of different, thought, and not that it's bad, it's just but it's going back it's so funny though when we align in ways that's around, like, you're talking about fitness, money, you start to really understand the core principles of life. It's changes how you see the world, and it changes literally how you vote, it changes how you wanna protect certain things, it really does, like, you can't unsee it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, bro, let's do this really quick. Let me ask you about faith, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind at all.
Where do you see faith in your business? How do you see how do you see what you've learned
Yeah.
helping your business? And does it change? I'm sure it has. How did it change your why since you started,
Yeah.
15 years ago?
It's such a good question because faith is definitely something I've wrestled with. I mean, I don't think I'm probably the last person I feel qualified to talk about it. More from the standpoint of like, obviously I'm Christian, believe in that a ton. I've had different experiences within different church environments, some good, some bad. Some make me question things. Some make me kind of be like, man, it's even sometimes 'cause I talk about there's a book called Outwitting the Devil, and like it talks about the biggest two D's, which is like doubt and drifting. And I talk about a lot of my podcasts, and unfortunately, I see a lot of it in the church right now where people are kind of drifting, right, and hoping someone's going to like God will help, but I always learned very early on faith without action is dead. Like there's so many people with like faith, but they're not doing anything to change their situation. And I see it kind of like, especially in the church today, not it's not even a rant, it's more just an observation. I see so many people just like outsourcing their certainty and their belief in themselves to God instead of actually using what God intended to actually build us within. So we actually can go be a vessel per se to other people. And so what I love so much about sales, but even like teaching sales, is I truly feel I'm teaching people how to fish, right? I've seen legitimately, I had a client just share with me, like he's kind of like, this was literally this morning. He sent me a message because he was his business was kind of taking some ups and downs, didn't have a ton of consistency, even to the point he didn't have any sales in his business, and he's just relying on this for him and his family and kids. And this past week, tweaked a couple of things, not even a ton, even just helping the conference. He had 5 sales this week, right? That stuff changes people's lives from the ground up. Like when you don't doubt your ability to like go create, that's what sales is. It's creating opportunity there wasn't any. That's why I love cold calling because even though it feels hard, it's the hard stuff many people aren't willing to do. People will pay 5 figures to like avoid cold calling, right? They will pay so much money to avoid doing it, but by doing it, you have the skill to create opportunity and your own personal economy out of what seemed like nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what's been my life purpose. I have felt recently where it's like God gave me a skill to be able to relay and translate very concept ideas in the business world, the very simple things for people to understand quickly in a cold call. So that way people can actually get things they want they didn't even realize they needed.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
And that's
good,
where
man.
faith is just tied into a lot of it. Like I don't think I'm not here without my faith. I'm not here without it's like, but people talk about faith in terms of like faith with God. Very people talk about faith in themselves. I just blacked out. That's and
That's God saying, no, 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 no. But that's exactly what I am obsessed with that idea in following your gut. And faith to me came into my life because I grew up going to church, but I just
yep,
didn't
yep.
really think about it. And when everything gets taken away that you thought you were in control of, what's the point of all of this?
Point
And
well.
I was going through life like this, white knuckled. And I met a guy here in Franklin, Tennessee, and he showed me how to do that. And I broke down crying. It was so emotional. But so if you're ever in Tennessee, you got to come to Franklin. If you go to Nashville, I'll show you around. There's
Absolutely.
phenomenal,
I'll be there in
phenomenal.
April.
Oh, sweet. For what?
Yeah, so there's an event. Actually, I should probably send it to you. SalesCon. I don't know if you know Dean Cazzaro, Hardly Selling Guys. I'm
I
actually
know
my
Dean.
wife.
I just was Facebook messaging him the other day.
Yeah, yeah. So my wife and I will be there. That's like they have their SalesCon, what, 24th, 26th of April. So we're gonna
Sweet.
be there day before though. So yeah, absolutely.
Dude, come down to Franklin. I'll show you my office. It's a sweet office. It's in this old factory from like the 1800s, and they outfitted into like this mall. And then this side building where we are, it's all entrepreneurs walking around,
Love it. Yeah, I'd love
and
to.
it's all faith. A lot of faith in this building. Like you walk in and you feel it, dude. You know the TV show The Chosen.
Man, I have heard of it. I haven't seen it, but now
Okay,
I
so
want
it's
to watch.
it's the story of Jesus, and their office is right there. So
That's
it's a
sick.
really cool spot, dude.
That's awesome. I love that.
All right, real quick before I let you go, 4
Yep.
quick questions. So give me quick
Yep.
quick answers. All right,
All
lightning
right.
round.
Yep.
We're talking about sales. You're the cold call king.
Possibly. I don't know.
What's the best cold call opener?
There's about 23 of them. Which one works for your personality?
Oh, what an answer. Now if someone's going to go, well, where do I find the 23? And we'll put
Yeah,
links to your
the
stuff.
joewanner.com. There you go.
There you go. Free download. Just got to pay. Just got to give me your phone
Yeah.
phone number.
Yeah, pay me $100,000, then we'll talk. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. All right. One mindset shift that you went through that doubled your income.
You're more capable than you realize.
Who should not be in sales?
People that want to play to their own victim limiting beliefs.
That's good, dude. That's good. There's a lot of people like that. All right. If someone feels stuck tomorrow, what uncomfortable action should they take?
Start.
Pretty simple, isn't it?
It's literally just count down from 5 seconds, do something. Like I talk about this called the perfection complex. I know you said short answer, but this one's really important. There's a perfection complex, right? And a lot of people, it's either they're an options person, like, oh, what if this, or this, or a process person. Well, I need the next 40,000 steps before I decide anything. And the way to solve both of them is to use the other to solve it. So an options person just needs to actually pick one process that just moves them in a direction. You know what? If it doesn't work out, you can always go back.
Yeah.
But staying there is actually going to keep you in a spot of just like paralysis of analysis. The more you stay in paralysis of analysis, you stack negative self-image and you eventually start to believe like you're not worth it. That's why that forms, right? The process person who needs like the next 40,000 steps, look at the first 5, pick one, go do it. Sometimes you'll realize you didn't need the other 3 before it.
I love it, dude. I'm going to clip that and send it to my wife. God bless her. She's a wonderful person, but we talk about that stuff all the time. One more question. Would you ever go back to W-2 job? And not to sales job, but like, would you ever go back to get a job?
If it required it of me at a certain time, if I lost everything and I just needed to do it, yeah. Yeah, I'm not against W-2, 1099, whatever, but I will fight to never have to.
There you go. I love it. Joe, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, talking about sales. You guys do great stuff over at NEPQ with Jeremy. So we'll make sure to put links for all of the ways people can follow you because you're on all the socials, right?
Yeah. Very simple. It's mainly the joewanner.com. We just launched our whole website, everything built for the Cope podcast, everything there. And then, at Joe Wanner Official on Instagram. Nothing crazy.
Love it. And my takeaway is get started. I love that. Just get started. Who knows what the outcome's going to be? Start it.
Worst thing you find out is like, hey, change direction. The people that act, though, the universe rewards action, regardless of whether it's the right one or not.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out the links for Joe down below this episode, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Joe.
Appreciate you, Matt. Thank you. Good to see you, bud. Chat soon.